Hello and welcome to this MBL session, Highway Issues and Introduction for Property Lawyers. My name is Alistair Frew and I'll be taking you through highway issues during the next hour. So firstly, what is a highway? Well, the principal piece of legislation is the Highways Act 1980, which defines a highway as the whole or part of the highway, other than a ferry or a waterway. That's a fairly broad definition, possibly not the most helpful. And it covers both a public highway, which we property lawyers refer to as an adopted highway, and also a private highway or an unadopted highway. And we'll be discussing what adopted and unadopted means a little later on. A highway, however, does not include a right to roam or a right to meander. You may have heard about the right to roam on upland countryside. That is not a right of highway. That is a separate thing dealt with in separate sessions. So the word highway is not clearly defined, but what is important and what is known through centuries of case law is that a highway must have utility, must have purpose, and it must connect one highway to another highway. There may well be certain quirks due to local authority searches not being perhaps conducted with or processed with the most clarity, where maybe your highway doesn't connect to another highway, but ultimately a highway must connect to another highway. It must have utility. It must have purpose. And at common law, we see a further definition. A highway is a way over which there exists a public right of passage. That is to say, a right for all of His Majesty's subjects at all seasons of the year, freely and at their will, to pass and repass without let or hindrance. So that's the famous definition: to pass and repass without let or hindrance at all times of year. Now, by statute, certain highways have a gate with a toll. You have to, for the M6 toll, some of the big bridges, highways, but you have to pay to cross them. Parliament has decided to impose that charge, but still you are allowed to use the road. They can't stop you using it as long as you pay the charge, which is generally, certainly with bridges, a temporary 20, 30-year charge, then it is removed. So without let or hindrance. And conversely, if you are hindering someone using a highway, you are likely to be committing an offence. But just a word about gates. Just as a footpath across the countryside typically may well have a gate, so a road, a vehicular highway across countryside, particularly in the hills, may well have a gate placed there by a sheep farmer to stop the sheep from escaping. It can still be a highway as long as, when I drive up in my car or I walk up to it, I can open the gate, pass through it, and then close the gate behind me. That is perfectly lawful. That is not hindering my passage. That is just protecting sheep from escaping. If the gate is locked, that's a very different matter. So without let or hindrance.